Welcome to A Court of Fairies and Fangirls. I'm Alex.
And I'm Sarah.
And this is a Sarah J. Maas fan podcast where we are obsessed with her books and can't stop thinking about it or talking about it. So we figured, why not record us thinking and talking about it? So
we're going to break down chapters, go through each book separately, go into character analysis and any thoughts or kind of theories that we have about books, characters, plots, etc.
And maybe play some fun games along the way.
Exactly.
So welcome and enjoy. This is our mini-sub.
Yes.
Mini. Spoiler, spoiler, spoiler. Do not listen if you have not read the entire series.
Yes.
This is your warning. You're welcome. But before we dive into this topic, though, I had a few random things to bring up that were either connected to our reading this week that were spoiler-ish, or some feedback we've received, or random things that I have discovered in the last week that I just want to share in this spoiler. So first off, in the part we read, Farah disobeyed Tamlin's orders and went into Callan Bay. She said something where she was having this internal battle where it was stay in your chamber. And then it says, but a wild, wicked voice weaving in between the drum beats whispered otherwise. Go, that voice said, tugging at me. Go see. And part of me is is that him calling her? Oh my gosh!
It's the mating call.
Well, I was saying, is he outright calling her, or is this just some innate pull towards her mate that she can't understand?
Yes.
I guess so much.
That's 100% what it
Right?
is.
Yes.
I was like, who's telling you to go?
No wonder you had to disobey. Your mate was out there.
I know. So I totally forgive her disobeying.
I know.
Yes.
Could not control that at all. So that was just that was one random spoiler of what in the reading this week. And then also one other interesting random theory I found in the world is someone suggested that Asriel's mate was Rhys's sister. And that is why he's more quiet and emotional, because she was murdered. And that's why he doesn't have a mate. And we haven't met a mate for Asriel. It's because maybe it was his sister. And I don't know if that's going to be true. We'll see. But, I thought that was a very interesting idea. Is, that's who his mate was. So that's why Asriel has a really hard time, being in a relationship or loving somebody because he came out of an experience like that. And that could be total BS. But I think it's an interesting theory.
It's very interesting, but it doesn't make me all excited to read Asriel's story. I want him to fall in love. I want to read him falling in love.
He can still fall in love. I think that's the thing.
But can you have two mates?
No, you can't have two mates, but remember, it's being mates with someone is not the same thing as being in love with someone.
No, but everybody else gets to have a mate. Shouldn't Az?
And I feel bad. I want Az to have a mate because everybody else
I know.
Okay, but remember Rhysand's parents and Tamlin's parents, they were mates and they did not get along. They were not good for each other.
Yeah.
So I think we've been spoiled with Farah and Rhys and Nesta and Castian's mating experiences. It's not always that
I see
way.
what you're saying, because it can be sort of yes, the mates, all that sort of stuff, and then it has the juxtaposition of choosing your love.
And the choosing
and so Az
part.
can be that story,
Choice.
which is just as good.
But
I have my personal ship.
I don't know.
But
see, he can. I think he can still fall in love. But they said, when there's either a rejection or a breaking of the mating bond, how that will affect somebody. They don't die, but it affects them.
Yeah.
And I think that's
and
what.
he does have a lot to work through.
He clearly has so much on his shoulders.
Yeah.
That I'm maybe his mate is dead. Whether it's Rhysand's sister or not, I think it would be kind of cool if it was. But whether it's his sister or not, I wonder if his mate has already died, and that's why he seems to have this extra hurdle.
Yeah, I also feel we don't know. We still don't know everything about Az.
No.
Right.
Next book.
Yes.
Okay, so that's 2, 3. Third thing, and then we're going to talk about the best thing ever. But so just in the timing of where we're recording and things are releasing, very recently, our first mini-sode went out talking about the Archeron sisters. And I think it's interesting that we got a little bit of flack for how we described Nesta. And while I re-listened to it and stand by everything I said, I think something was interesting. And Andy, who you met in our main episode, she's here again. She's going to join us for the mini too. But she brought up some good points about like the motivation behind like, or maybe not motivation, but like their like how they coped with.
Do you want me to read my text that
I sent? read your thoughts.
I can't remember it off the bat.
But I think it's a good perspective. Yeah. And then I have a thought connected to it.
Let me find it. I gotta find it. Oh, you got it. So I said, at the end of the day, it's all about self-preservation. True loss and trauma opens up the core of what matters to you, whether mentally or physically, and more often than not, very subconsciously. Fair's preservation was a physical act of survival. Mental capacity had to be stunted in order for the base physical to survive. Nesta was pride. Physical didn't matter so much to her as the maintenance of her pride. The loss severed her in any inclination to physically act or serve, as she was so caught up in the mental fight of survival. It was the only thing she felt she had control over. And Elaine was peace. This came at a detriment to the true need of survival, both for herself and her family. Sometimes peace needs to be foregone, but that was what was most important to her. So no one was truly wrong or right, was what I was trying to get. I totally understand any Nesta hate, any Elaine hate, even any Fair hate, because each reader is going to be very different with when you suffer loss and trauma and are suddenly thrown in one sort of life facet to the other, you're going to react in a certain way, and it's going to be different than even your sisters and loved ones. And personally, that's how I see each of the sisters reacting. So they had to survive, and they had to understand in their own capacity what was going on, and none of them reacted or understood in the same way.
Yeah.
And that's why there's so much, I don't know.
like tension between them
Yes. Yeah. So.
Well, and that explanation had me thinking also, so Sarah and I are both the kinds of people that in trauma, we get shit done.
Right.
Like, that's where our brains go. We're like, it doesn't matter if you're upset. You do what you have to do to get this stuff. That's how Sarah and I function.
Right.
And I think that's why and I
that's exactly why.
We're so like, Farrah's doing things. She suffered.
Yep.
Nesta, why are you still? Or Elaine.
Probably exactly what
and
it
I think
is.
that's what it is you and I both have that mindset that, like, I think, like you said, like, no one's wrong for, like, critiquing their different responses, but, like, I think that's why you and I were, like, Farrah had the best response.
Yes.
Because that's how we would respond.
Right. That's exactly true.
Right. So, yeah. I mean, even their dad.
Right.
Different response,
reacted
too.
in a way
Totally
that was the most, and I mean, he lost his wife, he lost everything, and with a man's pride, that's a lot. So, like, did he react in the best way? Certainly not, in my opinion. I have a lot of problems with it, but it at least allows a little bit of grace and understanding, and challenges the readers to empathize.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, the point. I think, like, you don't want every single family member to react in a certain way. You want to allow your readers to connect to each of the characters differently.
Yeah.
And that's what gives it more substance. Because in my opinion, main characters like Fair and Rhys, like, they move the plot and they move the story, but the side characters build the world. And so these side characters, the sisters, like Lucien, everybody need to be complex, and they need to be explained in different facets so that the world can be built. And, like, if you have that world being built and then you have the main characters moving the plot and both are working together so well, that's what allows this series to be as good as it is, in my opinion.
I totally agree.
I agree.
All right, so that's just our, like, extra business. This mini-sode, which honestly I don't think is going to be very mini. I can sense it already. We're talking about the one and only Rhys.
Yes.
High Lord of the Night Court.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I thought, because I knew we would be overwhelmed, I was like, let's talk about this strategically.
Okay.
Let's like follow Rhys's life.
Okay.
And maybe that's how we'll like structure this conversation on him, because otherwise we're just going to be like, the whole time.
Yep.
So, he's from the Night Court.
Mm-hmm.
His dad's a dick.
Yes.
His mother is sweet.
Yes.
And his mother is part Illyrian,
Mm-hmm.
which is like the warriors.
Mm-hmm.
And that is how he meets Cassian and Asriel.
Right.
Because his mom takes him to the Illyrian war camps to like train, because he has the Illyrian wings. And they
become brothers.
brothers. In like
the hottest brothers ever.
Yes. Probably the most powerful brothers ever,
too.
Yes. I think it's so funny though, like they didn't like each other at first.
No.
Like that was what they described as like.
But I feel like top competitors never like each other initially.
Oh, true.
You know what I mean? They like sense
They
who
all
the other
had
alpha
had
males
three
are.
alphas.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was gonna say they all had alpha energy.
Yeah. So obviously they don't like each other.
Yeah.
But then they team up and then they become brothers, and it's so sweet.
It's the sweetest. I love his relationship with the two of them so much. It's just like, it's like the perfect combination of like fun and sass, but also like very real too. I don't know. What do you guys think?
The fact that they have snowball fights every year.
Yeah.
I love, like, they're truly like brothers. It's like little kids.
Yeah.
And that's like the fun aspect. But then it's like he respects them so much. It's like Cassian's in charge of like, you know, all the training and like leading his war efforts. And then Oz is like in charge of
His spy master.
his spy master. Yeah. So it's like he trusts them with everything. And he tells them everything. So, I mean, they're his inner circle. So
Yeah.
I love it.
Quite literally.
Yeah.
So he goes through that. He grows up. He's a warrior, and that's how he first meets Tamlin.
Yes.
Because he's helping Tamlin like learn how to fight. I think them having a friendship before everything went down with their families is fascinating.
It's very interesting. But I also can't imagine, like, you know, Tamlin and Rhys's kids when they were, like, just trying to, like, fight in the war efforts, like, under their dads, who were both, like, High Lords or whatever.
Right.
So I feel like they probably acted a lot different when they weren't in power.
That's true.
So they could have gotten along. I could see them, like, getting along. Because, again, alpha males, so... if he gets along with, like, Oz and Cassian, I could see him getting along with Tamlin.
Right. And then his and Tamlin's families essentially kill each other, and that's how Tamlin and Rhys become mortal enemies. And then the whole Amarantha thing happens.
Yes.
And Rhys is taken by her.
Yeah.
And becomes her whore.
Which is the worst. I can't even imagine. Like, 50 years. He's literally her whore for 50 years.
I just...
Like, you think about, like, one night of, like, horribleness that could happen to you. Like, this is, like, 50 years.
How do you not just become, like, numb inside? Like,
the fact that he still has, like, hope and, like, is able to, like... The first time he even, like, is out on Callan May, like, that we are introduced to him, he's just, like... The fact that he's still, like, a person and he's, like, nice to Farrah. Like, how are you like that after 50 years of this, you know?
I mean, I think his inner circle is that hope. So as long
That's
as that confirmation is there, that he has his inner circle still, regardless.
And Valaris is still there.
Valaris, right. That was what he does before.
So he can't let that hope die, even if you have, like, that one little thing.
Yeah. It's like, it's the presence of Valaris, knowing it's safe, knowing his inner circle is safe there.
Yeah.
That's the thing that's keeping him.
It's crazy, though. 50 years. Like, I just can't fathom. Granted, I know they're immortal, so, like, 50 years is a totally different time perspective than for us. But it's still a long time.
It's a very long time.
Yes. So, and then, he's under the mountain with Farrah when she gets down there.
Right.
And
so
I love their interactions down there. At first I was like, this guy sucks.
I agree.
Terrible. I was like,
She
he's
did
treating
such a
her
good-
like a whore.
Right.
I'll be honest, I
dressing
never
her-
felt that at all.
When he, like, dressed her in, like, those skimpy things.
No, I did not care. Here's the thing, Sarah. You are married to Captain America. This is why you feel this way. This is
True.
okay. I like the dark, the brooding, the sassy, the, like, mildly aggressive. That's who I'm married to, okay?
Alice immediately was like, Tamlin who?
Yeah.
Sarah and I were like,
But it wasn't, he didn't act like he had a love interest in her. You know what I mean?
I agree.
At first, because he was
I
just like,
agree with
I'm
you.
just taking her as like, because he was like trying to piss off Tamlin. So it didn't seem like he was interested in her. You know what I mean?
He might not, I was interested in him. That's what you're not kidding. It was right off the bat. I was like, that one. Immediately. I was very much, when I read this, I was still very much like, I was for Tamlin. I liked seeing their relationship develop. I wanted Feyre to be happy.
Yeah.
Me personally was like, that one. That is the one I want. Please.
Again, very K-drama vibes.
Yeah.
There's always the love triangle, and it's always like, that one.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for the morally great characters.
I know, but I just love, like, I just think of the last night before, like, the final battle, where she's, like, all painted, and she goes to, like, and she makes out with Tamlin, like, in the last night, and then that's his first kiss with her, and he's, like, regrets it later, like, that he hates it that was their first kiss.
Yeah.
But, like, the fact that he's, like, trying to save Tamlin and Feyre, I'm like,
I know.
You are literally the sweetest person ever.
He helped her with the second task.
I know, from
when
dying.
she couldn't read.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And then there was also at one point, I don't remember at what exact moment it was, but at some point she's in her like cell.
And he plays the music for her.
She hears the music.
Oh my gosh, it's so
Yeah.
beautiful. I love that so much.
But like all of his interactions with her are so kind, but he's for sure hiding it under
I mean,
his
he has
sarcasm.
to play the game still.
Like that's what's happening.
For
Yeah.
Because
sure.
it's like, oh, I'll heal you, but like you have to let me spend more time with you.
Yeah.
And I'm doing that because I'm trying to steal you away from Tamlin, not at
Yeah.
all because I want to spend time with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's just like you said, it's a game he was playing.
Mm-hmm. But also, he wasn't totally aware of his feelings for her either until we read at the very end of this book, which I shared with you last week.
Which, Andy, do you know
Andy,
this?
do you know this part?
I don't
It was
remember. I don't remember.
literally the best part of the book. I never.
remember that. Okay.
So
Okay.
last week in our mini-sode, we talked through the Suriel spoils and all of the ways that the Suriel has like spoiled
about Follow
things.
the High Lord and it's freaking Rhys the whole
Right,
time.
yeah, we talked through all of that.
Yeah.
And at one point, he put like, he was like, oh, I know a great deal about your mate or something like that. Mm-hmm. And she's like, what? And she's like, how long has he known? And so this is where...
okay.
So this is at the very end. So they've been freed from Ariel, but they're still in the cave.
Yes.
And they go to leave. So this is when she like kind of sneaks up and meets with Rhysand up like...
By the window.
Okay,
yeah, I vaguely remember
So Rhysand stared at me for long enough that I faced him. Be glad of your human heart, Feyre. Pity those who don't feel anything at all. I couldn't explain about the hole that had already formed in my soul. Didn't want to, so I just nodded. Well, goodbye for now, he said, rolling his neck as if we hadn't been talking about anything important at all. He bowed at the waist, those wings vanishing entirely, and had begun to fade into the nearest shadow when he went rigid. His eyes locked on mine, wide and wild, and his nostrils flared. Shock, pure shock, flashed across his features as whatever he saw on my face, and he stumbled back a step. Actually stumbled. What is, I began, he disappeared. Simply disappeared, not a shadow in sight, into
I
the
do
crisp
remember
air.
this. The mating.
Neither of us had ever picked up on that.
Oh, you never picked up on
Never
that?
picked up on
But
that.
when I read this book for like the fourth time, I read that and I was like,
Oh
my gosh, that's amazing!
Our listeners heard me cry
Yes.
last week
Yes.
hearing that for the first time.
Yes.
Oh yeah, no, I remember that.
It's so beautiful.
It is.
But I think
I like how he was shocked as well.
I know.
And so
Like,
that's
he
what I was
deserved
saying.
to
Like,
be
yeah,
shocked.
like he like did all these nice things for her, but like
Yeah.
as just like a kindness, and like he felt something, but like he didn't know.
he doesn't know
He doesn't
she's
know
for
she's
me.
yes
For sure.
not until after.
And I think, you know what, I think he liked her.
Yeah.
I just think he was surprised that she was his mate.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I think that was where the real shock
Right.
was. Because in theory, mating is, like, rare. It's
Right.
not in any of these people's lives, apparently. But
Right.
the way she first described it was that it's more rare. So it's like, you have this rare thing with this person who is with your enemy.
Right.
And it's like, and was human and did this. And so I think it's like he has the shock for that. But he would, like, he has been connected to her his whole, like, her whole life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he has been shooting the images down the bond. He was looking for her at Calumet. There is something there.
Mm-hmm.
He knows there's a connection there.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's outright realizing it's, like, the mating bond, but he has had some connection with her his entire life.
Yeah.
Like there is,
or her entire life.
or sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
For her entire life,
Right.
there has been a connection there. So I do think that he likes her.
Yeah.
throughout.
Yes.
Yeah, I do. I totally think he likes her. I mean, he tries to save her,
Right.
like, from Aramantha. Like, he...
Over and over.
Right. So many times. And then he, like, attacks Aramantha. Like,
Yeah.
literally, like, when she's, like, killing Feyre. I know, it's amazing. It's like, he did that instead of Tamlin, who,
Yeah.
like, supposedly is in love with her. Granted, Tamlin's, like, just in shock and, like...
Screw Tamlin.
I
I was
know.
going to say something else, but, like, I literally can't with that.
But so that's really, like, all we see of Rhys in the first book. The second book...
The second
Oh my god,
book,
that's where we all fall in love with him.
Yes.
The
Oh,
second
yes.
book is ridiculous.
yes. I mean, let's first talk about how he makes her write all these sentences about
Right.
himself.
Well,
which
no.
is the freaking best thing ever.
Before that, let's talk about the wedding day.
Oh yeah, and he
Oh, yeah.
saves her.
Where it's, I'm like, I love it so much that he just like straight up like wedding crashes. Like,
Yes.
hey, it's time for you to go with me.
Yeah.
And Tamlin's like, no goodbye, just give me another time. But Feyre goes with him, and it's because he was hearing her screaming for help
Yes.
in her brain.
And he was gonna let her go through this. Like he wasn't gonna come until she like.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
screamed help.
if she truly wanted it, he wasn't gonna stop it.
Yeah, which is so sweet too. That it's like he would have let her.
Right.
Because at this point,
Tamlin.
he knows she's his mate.
Right.
And he was going to let her do that.
Yeah.
It's too good.
Yes.
But I've seen some really, I've seen some like fan art and like clips just around what that time for Rhys must have been like.
Oh, torture.
Coming out from the mountain, trying to recover from that PTSD, finding out who his mate was, finding out his mate is going to marry this other guy, and how like depressed he must have been.
Yes.
So it's like if you imagine him being depressed, him hearing her screaming, and he's like, "Let me grab my suit and we'll go get this taken care of." And I don't know, it's an interesting like emotional shift when you think about it.
Yeah.
But he saves her,
I know.
and then she spends a week with him every month,
Mm-hmm.
and then has
Writing-
him write the sentences.
Writing the
I'm sorry.
sentences. It's so funny.
He
Just
is
about
the most
how
handsome.
I know how handsome he is.
I'm the thing that like draws me to Rhys more than Tamlin is Rhys has this like, I think Tamlin can be funny and he can be sarcastic, but Rhys is just like pure like flirt all the time, like
Yes.
hilarious snarky flirt,
Mm-hmm.
and I love it.
I love his attitude, towards everything. And he's so calculated, everything he does,
Mm-hmm.
which is just so impressive to me, that you can be thinking so far ahead, like, with so many interactions, and it's
Yeah.
like you only will come off a certain way to certain people.
Yeah.
It's just so impressive to me. It's like, that's why you're the most powerful High Lord ever.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He's the
Ever.
most powerful High Lord ever.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Mhm.
And then you're right, he has that total like double like life kind of thing where everyone assumes he's High Lord of the Night Court, and so he's a monster.
Yeah.
And the reality is, it's like, no, like that's a cover to protect his people and to do these other things.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Well, you just think about when he goes to the Hewn City the first time, and it's like, he's this terrible, like, person that's, like, cool with, like, torture and all these other things. And
Yeah.
you're like, what? How do they see him this way? He's so good.
yeah, it's so interesting. He totally puts on
It's
like,
so impressive.
a whole new face.
Yeah.
But let's see what else happens. So I remember my brain automatically goes to chapter 54 and chapter 55.
I know, that's what I was thinking. I was like, I feel like that could be all we talk about
I was
for
gonna
the
say.
whole episode.
Right. I purposefully did not bring that book so that I would not just like sit and read
The whole thing.
the whole thing.
Yeah.
But it's so like they have this journey together where he eventually saves her. Let's actually go back. He saves her from Tamlin.
Yes.
Literally, Tamlin locks her up,
Mhm.
and he sends Moore because he can't technically go.
Right.
Mhm.
Moore takes her, and then he's just like, "You don't have to stay here, but you're welcome." And I just thought that was so sweet.
Yes.
Like, not controlling, which is very different than Tamlin.
Yes.
Right? Like, powerful, but not in a
Yes.
creepy controlling
It's
way.
always Farrah's choice.
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
Like, does she want to be?
Exactly.
Like, does she want to come with him and like learn about what he's doing? Like, does she want? It's always her choice.
Right.
Yeah.
Which I love and respect.
Yes. Same.
Well, he's like a true. I've seen like on TikTok about how like Rhys is like a true feminist, and
Yeah.
I'm like, absolutely.
Mhm.
Yes. Yes.
But so like she decides to stay.
Mm-hmm.
She meets all of his inner circle, which is like such a joy. But then they like just like continue to connect and grow as she's like distancing herself from Tamlin and learning about the war and how to help him and all of those good things until she finds out he's her mate from the Suriel. Thank you, Suriel. And then she gets pissed, hides in the cabin, and then Rhys comes and is like, "Hi, I'm sorry. Can we please talk?" And then the best 2 chapters in existence happen.
Yes.
I love how he explains everything to her.
Going all the way back to when she was a human.
Yes. I love that. I love her response of just like passing him the bowl of soup and she's like, "Then eat up."
I know.
And you're like, "Thanks."
It's like, yes, I will accept you as mate, because that's what they do. You give like your mate food. It's like a show of acceptance.
But like the sexual tension that was between the two of them in that first half of the book had me like writhing on the couch, literally writhing. And like, when are they gonna do it? When is this finally gonna come? Sarah J. Maas, not you, Sarah. Sarah is the queen of slow burn.
Yes. I know. I love it.
It's so good, though. I love it so much.
It's so good. But I remember like Googling like what chapter do Rhys and Feyre have sex. So I'm like, it's coming. I just don't know when. But I think that was just like, again, a very sweet, like how you said, he lets her choose everything. Like he's like, if you say no, like I'll leave you alone. Like we don't have to. But she says yes.
I know.
And then just leave it at that because we'll gush the whole time.
And then she becomes High Lady of the Night Court.
Oh my gosh.
Which I'm just like,
because he's a feminist.
Yes. he wants her to truly be his equal in every way.
Agreed.
Which
I love.
It's amazing.
How is he not like
a human in real life? Like, where are you? Sarah?
Yeah, like where are you?
Yeah, right.
Where are you?
Rhys, if you're out there, we know a single gal.
That's true. Let's see, what else in Mist and Fury can you think of in terms of like Rhys and his development?
I don't know about that one, but I mean the third book, Feyre saves him and brings him back to life.
That's true.
Because he sacrificed himself for the whole world.
Yeah.
Because he's the most giving person ever.
Yeah.
Giving fairy, whatever. Yeah, so, and Feyre brings him back, just like he brought her back, which I think is so sweet. So full circle on that.
It really is. Okay, Rhys, in terms of like relationships with other people, we've talked about like him and Feyre, we've talked about like him and Tamlin and his bros. Him and Amryn is another like interesting one.
That one's so interesting.
Because she's his number 2.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, how did you guys become buddies?
I know.
Probably out of fear.
Probably, yes. Yes.
He's like, I'm mildly intimidated by you, and I like that.
I respect you because I'm terrified.
Yes.
So you're my second.
He totally would do that.
Yeah. And then more.
And more. Which, like,
that feels like brother sister vibe
it is
to
like,
me.
Well, they're cousins.
Yeah,
so it's like,
cousins.
their relationship is really sweet to me of how he, like, helps her and protects her. And, like, he also, not every time, because sometimes it can't be helped, but he tries to be like, hey, more, like, is it okay if we interact with your father in this way?
Yeah.
Or, again, can't help it sometimes, but I think it's nice how he's, like, thoughtful of her as well.
Yeah.
And let's see, who else? His interactions with Nesta crack me up.
I'm totally on Rhys's side, though, with how he interacts with Nesta.
Okay, I think he still treats her badly. I don't like how he...
I've heard, and I agree with this, how Rhys treats Moore and her trauma very differently than he treats Nesta and her trauma.
Yes.
He allows Moore to hold on to that and be so, and it was a terrible situation. But he lets her, like, continue to stir in that to the point where he's, like, asking permission to interact with her father. Or, like, he's still feeding that. Whereas it was, like, with Nesta, it was, like, she was upset for 6 months, and he's like, get over yourself. I'm like, you let Moore still be pissed all the time and, like, upset. Like, Moore is not over her trauma in any way, shape, or form, and you don't, you know, you're not a dick to her about it.
Yeah.
So, like, why are you so intense to Nesta? I don't know. It's an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. He's trying to be protective of
Feyre.
Yeah. Like, blah, blah, blah. You hurt the love of my life.
Right.
Cool story, bro. It's your sister-in-law. Don't be a dick.
Right.
everybody's trauma is valid and worthy to be understood and heard, and like, don't be a dick.
Yeah.
So, not a huge fan of that.
But you're right. It's because she hurt Feyre. That's why.
Yeah. Which, that's between them. Not
Exactly. Typical overprotective male.
Yeah, but I feel like that's every husband.
But anyway.
But yeah, that's 100% what it's like.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a Nesta stan, so that's why I'm like...
I mean, I do think like there should be some more sympathy towards Nesta in that regard. Like, yeah, she just got out of the cauldron 6 months ago and didn't want to be high fae. But then again, I like think of Farrah, and it's like she was murdered and then brought back as high fae also.
The sisters just need to get together.
I know.
And have a reunion of bonding and love and getting through their trauma.
And that's what I think. Like, I don't understand why the sisters don't ever like all sit down and like just like work through stuff together.
It's again because of the, and I think again it's like how I talked about before. Their self-preservation styles are so different that like coming together in one thing to bond is very difficult.
Yeah.
Unless it's like, you know.
You'd think Elaine would facilitate.
Elaine's
You know
not
what I
a
mean?
facilitator, though.
No.
Like, she wants
peace.
the peace, but, like, she doesn't necessarily want to fight for it. Like, sure, I mean, like, and when it came down to it, she did what needed to be done, but, like, at the end of the day, like, she's not, I don't know if it's, like, lack of confidence, I don't know what it is, but she's just not somebody to...
Yeah. Do that.
To do that.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, I mean, like, Farrah's gonna get tired enough of it, I think, to probably be like, okay.
Yeah. But, like, speaking of intervention type things, I think Cassian and Feyre should lock Nesta and Rhys in a room and just be like,
yes!
You're not coming out until you're okay with each other.
I agree.
They are okay after the pregnancy.
Yes,
like,
after
the
the
birth.
Oh, that's true.
Because the birth kind of like...
I think, you know what, you're right.
Because
Like,
like, he gets down on his knees.
He does. I know, because
knees.
Nesta's a queen.
But yeah, real
She's the
quick.
queen without the throne.
Yes.
There's the reference that I was talking about in the first
She
book.
so is. Okay, but like real quick, can we talk about Rhys's tattoos?
Yes, I freaking love the tattoos
The
so
mountains on his knees because he will bow for no one.
Love it so much. And then he bows for Feyre. Yeah.
Well, but it's like
for her.
he says it's like he'll bow for like no one except like his like court or something like that, and then it's like, and then it's her, and then it's also Nesta because she's saved her.
I know.
Oh, that's right. I totally forgot. They had their locked in a room moment.
Yes.
They did. They did.
So they're coolish now, probably.
Yeah.
Rhys isn't gonna run her out of town the same
No.
way he tried to.
Nesta has a very good redemption at the very end.
She does.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I like how she just, it's interesting.
Yeah.
To me, how she thinks about things and deals with things. Because it wouldn't be the way I would deal with them.
Right.
So I find it interesting to read her.
Yeah.
It's very, like, she's not necessarily reliable. To be honest, I don't know if any character is a reliable narrator, which makes them interesting to me. Because they're all very challenging.
Right. Well, and that's why, totally off topic from Rhys, but that's why I think A Court of Silver Flames, writing-wise, felt so different, is because it was more from Nesta's perspective, as someone who reads, like, romance novels, and, like, the reason why we see, like, a really, like, kind of negative side of Rhys in that book is because it's coming from Nesta's perspective, which is so interesting how she did that. But real quick also, let's talk like Rhys, like stats real quick. He has bat wings.
Yes.
And that's something else that I'm like, what the hell is that going to look like?
I'm so curious how the wings are going to look in the show.
We've talked about like Tamlin's like wolf nature and how it like talks about how he has like, he'll be in fae form and then there will be claws. And I'm like, what the hell do his claws look like? I want to know like
Wolverine claws?
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
That's what I would picture.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm like, are his nails
or are they like
just like growing?
Or are they like teen wolf claws?
Right.
Oh, that's another one.
So, but then it's like, what does Rhys's bat wings look like?
Yeah, what do the wings look like? That's going to be... In my head, they're like huge. Like massive, like... Not like see-through, they're just like these big black wings.
They're membranous? Membranous?
Yeah. I don't know though. I just... Like, I can see it in my head. I'm trying to think of a reference if I've seen anything like it in like a
the
movie
New
or
Jersey
something.
Devil.
I have no idea what you're talking about. What?
You've never heard of the New Jersey? We can pause it.
No, we're not pausing
Okay,
it. We're looking up the New Jersey Devil.
Yeah, it's kind of like New Jersey's version of Mothman.
Oh my gosh.
This
is so creepy.
But like that's what I picture in my head with bat wings as the New Jersey Devil.
But I can almost see like bat wings on a human though, like just bigger, you know?
Yeah.
Because I see a bat like cocooned up.
Yeah.
And I could see like them with that.
Right.
Big bat wings.
But then also the fact that it's also like an erogenous
I know. It was like,
too,
what?
it's like funny to me.
Right. It's like, all right.
I'm like, if you fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But that cracks me up. And then so he's tall, dark, and handsome, and I love how we talked about the tattoos on his knees. How he also has like the swirling tattoos on his chest, because that's how he like seals
all the tattoos,
all deals in the night court.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in love with it.
I want to see like Farrah's tattoo that like she gets with like the eye and everything. It's so interesting.
Mm-hmm. And then let's see, is there anything else we want to talk about with Rhys? I feel like there's so much that could be said about him.
I just love him. Like, I feel like, can I verbalize how much I love him? I don't know if I can. Like, it doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, it's like you just love him so much after, like, everything he's done.
Yeah.
But there's no, like, there's not, like, one specific reason. It's, like, it's a culmination of all three of the books. Like, why I love him so much.
He is, like, my comfort character in a way. I'm just like, Rhys will make me feel good. I'm going to go read Rhys for a little bit. I don't know. Just brings me joy. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Andy, what about you? What do you think?
I mean, I love him. He's not my favorite.
He's not?
He's not.
Who's your
favorite?
That's right.
I like Az.
Oh, yeah.
I love You're an Az girl.
Yes.
I love Az, though.
I love Rhys, don't get me wrong. But he's not my favorite.
Yeah, which is totally fine.
That's fair. That is fair. I am madly in love with him. And if he showed up on my doorstep right now, I'd be like, goodbye, husband, I'm sorry. I love you, but I have to. Sorry. It's the perfect character in my brain.
No, he really is.
Perfect character. All right. Well, we did a decent job.
Yeah.
This isn't terribly long. That was us gushing about Rhys. What do you think? I was just so excited that we finally meet him in our reading. Like, I literally was like, the second we meet him in this book, this is when we're talking about him. I was like,
so
I don't care.
Even know his name.
We don't even know his name yet, but I was like, it's time. It's time to talk about Rhys.
It's happening.
It's happening. Anyway, thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Yep. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to A Court of Fairies and Fangirls, a Sarah J. Maas fan podcast. Please rate, review, and subscribe. And let us know what you think. Jump in on the conversation. We look forward to chatting with you more next week. Bye-bye.